Hello friends, it's Kayla. I'm here for my July wrap up. Ow! I just cracked my knuckle. You know how there are some people who can like crack everything on their body? I can't. Like, people have tried to crack my knuckles before, so that was very startling. I'm sorry to start the video off like that. Like, I don't even know how to crack things if I tried. Anyway, I read some books. Don't look at my price tag. Should I start over? I don't know. I read 11 books in July, and I hated a lot of them, but I loved a couple. So let's begin with, I'm trying to decide. I want to start with like my 3-star not great YAs just to get them out of the way, but I don't know if that's like not a great way to start the video. Are you intrigued? Like, are you gonna stick around? I don't know. Okay, this is This Splintered Silence by Kayla Olson. It is about teens in space, and there's a pandemic and all the parents died, and now there's perhaps a second round of the pandemic, and we're following Lindley, who suspects that something is more suspicious on board killing people than just the illness. And I thought it was fine. The pace was fine, the mystery was fine, but like I didn't really care about anybody. The love triangle was weird. Really what held this together is the main character. I thought she was really interesting and relatable and like kind and thoughtful and strong-willed, but was willing to listen to everyone, and everyone came to her with the problems that they were having, and she had to discover throughout the book like what was important to her. And I love stuff set in space usually. I think I might have to move on from YA versions of it. Yeah, I have a couple more in my TBR, so I don't really know. I don't know where to go from here. I'm also moving on. Here's what this month was about: learning more about myself. I learned more about my reading taste by reading authors for the 3rd time. I learned more about myself by reading authors with the same name as me. And in a couple other cases, I figured out more about my reading taste, and that's always a good thing. Even if I gave Darling by one of my favorite authors, Kate Ingram, 3 stars, I think I'm moving on from Peter Pan retellings. Realistically, what I need to do is I need to not pick up from an author no matter what they write. If the book doesn't sound like something I'm gonna love, like I can skip over it and wait for their next book. This was about Wendy. She is living in Chicago, and she meets a mysterious, captivating, beautiful boy named Peter, and they just have like a wild night together. Like, they go to different places, they meet different people. She learns more about Peter and perhaps his like malicious plans. There's a lot of people that Peter's like taking care of, and there's a lot of secrets, and we learn more about him and Wendy, and it was fine. It was really short. What I realized is that I'm looking for more from a retelling than what I got in here, especially when the origin story like has some well-known like problems or issues that people take with it. I would like those things to be explored in a more thorough way, like fully like discussed, because it's always interesting seeing like how other people interpret a story, but I want commentary on the thing, not implied commentary, like well-established commentary. My next 3-star is The Dead in the Dark. I almost said The Dead in the Deep, and then I almost said The Deep in the Dead. The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold, which was kindly sent to me as an early copy. It's now out. I think a lot of people are really gonna enjoy this. It's a queer, small town paranormal story. That's what made me pick it up, and I think it delivered in a lot of different ways. I know people are really enjoying this, so we can just chalk it up to like, yeah, okay, maybe YA's not doing it for me all the time. Basically, we have this girl named Logan, and she moves like back to the small town of her dad's, who are ghost hunters. They have a TV show, and they're going to this city under the guise of like scouting it for their next episode of their show. But there's like an evil presence in the town, and she is going to work with this other girl named Ashley, who's from the small town. So there were some elements that I appreciated being in here, but the like friendship and relationship between these two girls didn't happen in a well-established way, in my opinion. It's just sort of a weird pacing of their relationship, and then there's also a missing boy, and the actual reveal itself and the like story behind the paranormal entity I just didn't really love, but I definitely don't think there was anything wrong with it. So okay, now we're on my last YA, and I gave it 1 star. Oh, and it's set in space. Etherbound by E.K. Johnston. Oh no! How do you remain respectful of a book when you hated it? Here's what I'll say. If I were ranking this stack on most accurate to least accurate synopsis, this would be at the bottom. I know that Goodreads synopses and Storygraph and content warnings on these places and all of that can give you a better idea of the book than what's just written here. And a lot of times I don't even read this to completion because I don't want to be spoiled for anything going on. But this is just not a good like explanation for what you're about to read. I thought it was set in space and it was about survival, and she's on the run and she meets these 2 boys and they hatch a scheme to take over the station and thwart their own destiny. And like, that sounds good. It's also my fault for not really knowing how short this was. Like, how? I read some shorter books that did a lot in a little amount of pages too, but my issue is when we're establishing a world and then the character is experiencing a whole new world. We only get like 100 pages of each of those things, and we're supposed to just be like on board and fully understanding everything as the character's learning everything. It was just a real struggle. I hated the calorie counting premise of this, and I feel like it could have been done in a different way and be just as successful. Actually, that's how I would describe everything that I took issue with. I took issue with the gene manipulation, and I feel like it could have been done differently. I don't like the like forced pregnancy storyline, and I think it could have been done better. Not by me. I'm not saying that I could pen a successful novel. Didn't like the love triangle in here. Could have been done differently. The representation could have been done differently. Overall, just a very weird book and extremely hard to follow. I didn't get it. I didn't understand much of anything that was going on. Why characters were doing what they were doing, who was who, what was what. Just not for me. Moving on to some 2 stars. Why not? One of these will not be a surprise, and one of them will be a surprise, I think. This one, because I read it in a vlog, The Animators by Kayla Ray Whitaker. This is like solely on me. This isn't my type of book. I was just trying to do a fun video, and I think I just need to stop doing fun videos. So sometimes I do end up with things that I love, but I feel like I'm really letting people down by trying to come up with this like silly fun content. And like, I have fun making it, so I don't mind reading shitty books. Or sorry, just books that aren't my taste. I love exploring and experimenting, but at this point, like, my TBR looks so good. There's so much good shit on there that I think I'm gonna like. And so like, I'm gonna start reading that. And I'm gonna slow down on reading things that I just don't know. This one also is pretty low or high on that scale of good description, because it's about like these 2 women who are partners in like animation. They work together, and it kind of implies that it's going to talk about like working in a male dominated field and like what it's like to have a career in animation, but it was more about their friendship and also their own personal journeys. They go through a lot in life. I feel like we follow them for like 10-20 years, and that's just not something that I love. Here's what I've learned: unless there is a focus that is taking us through someone's life. I don't just want to read about someone's life for 20 years. Like I've talked about this before, how like contemporary that just follows somebody's entire life, like that's not the most interesting to me. But I've realized that the books that I have enjoyed that have done that, there's something driving the narrative. Like there is a mystery that's running the entire time, or there is a career the person is chasing, or there's a magical element, or there's something beyond just people living. This also talks about some different like characters who just aren't in here enough that they don't need to be in the synopsis. I get that they're in the synopsis because they do have an impact on the storyline, but since the synopsis doesn't talk about the storyline that they're involved in, I don't know, just wasn't for me. Respect if it's for you. My other 2-star, maybe some of you see who's coming. It's Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I'm so sad. I choose so many book club picks for my Literally Dead book club, knowing that they're gonna be like a mixed bag. Some people are gonna love, some people are gonna hate. I love introducing people to thrillers they might not normally pick up. I love getting to read some of my favorite authors with you and introducing you to weird and wonderful and different things. But this year there was like 2 books that I was like, these are gonna be the staples that, like, if you don't like the other things that I've selected, if you're not on board, I'm gonna throw you some like just classic thrillers that we're all gonna like because these authors are well established. Peter Swanson and Riley Sager come to mind. And I disliked both of these picks, and I didn't see that coming for either of the selections, and it just makes me so sad. This is going to be in an upcoming live show and I'm really excited to discuss it, but it's about a young woman whose roommate recently died via the campus killer, who is this serial killer on campus, and she needs a ride home. She gets a ride share with this guy who she thinks like also goes to her school, and then throughout the car ride she learns like sketchy things about him and that maybe he's not who he says he is, and she thinks he's hiding things from her, and they just go on this trip. And I like a forced proximity story. I think this built a lot of tension. It was super fast paced, and that's all the nice things I have to say. It's funny because in so many Riley Sager books I hear the perspective over and over again that people hate how Riley Sager writes his women characters, and I've always been fine. And even in this one I was reading and I feel like I'm pretty good at separating myself from a character and separating myself from an author's like depiction of a character and not assuming that they're talking about people as a whole. Like, I don't think because an author depicts a woman behaving a certain way that they think that all women are like this. And so I can't critique a book. I can't critique a book for writing a character who I just I couldn't get on board with a single thing she was doing or saying or feeling. It was so aggravating, and I just wanted to be like, this isn't how a woman would react. This is not how I would behave. Like, this is so ugh. But I can't because people are different. You can write people however you want. But I really disliked every single plot point at every single point. Like, there were some twists that I didn't see coming, but like not in a great Riley Sager way that I have come to love. I feel like I've read so many shitty thrillers this year, and part of it feels like publishing is just like the idea of being a successful thriller author and being able to make a living off of writing thrillers. You are now expected to come out with one every single year, and unfortunately like just the care and attention isn't always there. I feel like that's where a lot of books that I'm reading are lacking. I often say that books are overly ambitious and the author just like didn't quite rise to the occasion. I feel the opposite about this. This just feels like a throwaway book to me. It was under ambitious. Okay, so now if you're still sticking around and you don't hate me for being so negative about everything that I read, guess what? I have 5 books I really liked. Starting with The Lost Ones by Sheena Kamau. This is the first in a series. We're following a woman named Nora Watts. I did a live show about this. It was fun getting to talk through everything, so I don't want to cover too much of it now. But basically, she birthed a baby. What else would you birth, Kayla? She gave birth and then put her child up for adoption. And how long is it? 15 years later, she gets a call and that child is missing and she needs to help track the child down. A big part of my enjoyment of this book that I can't deny is that it's set where I live. It's like the only book I've ever read that's set where I live, and it was such a wonderful experience and it was so fun and it was so atmospheric, and all of the different places that she goes to were so well described and accurate that it was just like, it was such a good time. I gave this a 4 and not a 5 because there are some over the top, like, I don't know, Indiana Jones, like ridiculous moments where things are just a little too convenient. I really enjoyed Nora as a character. She's so complex and has such a deep, dark history, and we really get to explore that. And it's not about her like developing as a person throughout the book. It's just like she is a survivor and she's gonna do whatever she needs to do. So I really enjoyed that. Next up, I have Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi, and this is about Ada, or no, it was Ada. Darn it. It follows some different life events of hers, and then how is it described? There forms a crystallization of alternate selves, and those alternate selves narrate portions of the book. And this is kind of what I'm talking about with following a character for a long time. I was down for it in this case because there was something like unique about it, and that was the writing style. It's not linear. It took a lot of like time and effort to fully understand what I was reading, and it had a good payoff. I have started and stopped this book multiple times this year, and I finally committed to it and enjoyed it a lot. I think I gave it 4 stars. It takes a lot of patience if you're planning on checking it out, because like it might be an unfamiliar writing style to some. I said in my vlog that I think you can look at this through a very Western lens and say certain things about the writing style or make certain summations about the character and her experience and her mental health. But what I think this book does well is introduce you to certain concepts that you might not be familiar with. Some people are totally going to connect with this and love it on such a deep level, but for the audience that this is unfamiliar to, there is a lot to learn and research after the fact, which is very cool. Next up, let's talk about The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This was my 3rd time with this author, and it's my favorite Sarah Gailey, which is very exciting. I actually don't want to talk about it. I want you, if you have yet to be like spoiled or really thoroughly been described the synopsis of this, I want to leave you with that, and I just want to tell you to pick it up because it's about clones. There's a woman and a clone, and she has a husband, and like that's all that I really want you to know. It's short, it has a good payoff, it's super interesting. I think it's going to lead to some really great discussions that I will be having on Chanel's channel mid-August. I think I gave it a 4.5. What I love about Sarah Gailey is there's no wasted time. Like there's no world building. We don't know really where this is set, when this is set, like what's going on. It's just about cloning and working in the field of cloning. I add this to the top of my stack of weird books. If you have read like Burn Our Bodies Down and Follow Me to Ground and The Seep and you've liked those and you haven't read this yet, do it. Do it soon. Next up, I also read in a vlog The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia, my third book from Silvia Moreno Garcia, and my favorite from Silvia Moreno Garcia. I gave this 4 stars. This is a story of Nina and Hector, but also Nina's cousin and his wife, whose names are escaping me. I think this synopsis wasn't great for me either, because maybe I was expecting a little more magic, and I was expecting a more like clear-cut romance, but this book made me really struggle my way through to get the enjoyment that was there. So this has to do with like socialites, rich, powerful people, and like choosing to be in a relationship and the benefits that it will give you like in society. But there's also witches, and there's like telekinesis, and it was really fun. There was a lot of great conversations in here about power and autonomy, and just like looking at society from the outside but also the inside. It was a really well-rounded story and very beautiful language. Highly recommend though, especially for fans of like The Midnight Bargain and The Year of the Witching. And obviously it's more direct inspirations like Vanity Fair and I don't know, just Jane Austen in general. Lastly, I read Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. And I got a couple comments on my last vlog about how they were so surprised that I pulled this out of the package that I hauled this. And I just feel like I'm doing something very wrong with my channel. I need to fix what I'm reading, because your perception of me is changing. Like, this is so exactly what I love to read. So much so that it was my favorite book of the entire month and I gave it 5 stars. I just need to read more horror and talk about more like weird, uncomfortable things, because this was fantastic and I don't recommend it to anybody. It is very short. How do we sum this up? It's about 2 women in the year 2000 and their conversations, instant messaging, and emailing each other. They're both looking to like fill a hole in each other's lives, and it gets very disturbing and very uncomfortable, which is so fun. I thought it was gonna get like weird, like magic weird, but it just got like reality weird, which is worse. It just perfectly encapsulates the internet in the early 2000s, but also it's just such an interesting overall take on humanity. Okay, that's it. Those are the 11 things that I read in July. Let me know if you read any of them and if you liked them, and if you have different opinions. I love hearing a contrasting opinion to my own, because I know that people always love what I hate and hate what I love, and that's what makes it so fun. I will never understand people getting mad at other people for their opinions on books, because if we all had the same thoughts, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking about our opinions, because they'd all be the same. Let me know if you're gonna read any of them. Have I swayed you? Have I swayed you away or towards? I'll talk to you in the comments below, and I'll see you soon. Bye.